flag, okay?
I'm glad she missed it. Oh, that works. That works.
And then here's my white flag. Coffee napkin.
Okay.
And then here's my yellow flag. Gummy bears. And then the red flag. And then when you and John are just like on this like tangent that just like, oh my God, just shut up. Like get out of the way. Let someone else talk. Blue and yellow flag comes out.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Track Packers podcast for episode 15 of season 2. We hope you're doing well as June is in full swing with a lot of racing taking place. We're here to break it down with the usual cast. Myself, Mason, along with John, Becca, and Jessup Collinsworth-Pelkey rounding out the field for today's episode. As you can tell, our lineup is switched, and we'll get to the switched up lineup here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank our presenting sponsor in 2023, Hitch Harness, and Mr. Tyler Hall out of Fertile, Minnesota. If you haven't heard of the Hitch Harness product, it's a very innovative thing that can help with your solutions for trailer and truck receiver hitch storage. And so the first aspect is safety. So you have safe receiver hitch storage in the back of the truck, and also efficiency. So you can move from one project to the next and not waste a whole bunch of time in between. And so head over to hitchharness.com and check out all the products they have. They have multiple styles and colors to choose from. They have chassis dollies for the racers if you want to add that to the shop. And hit up the Facebook page in case you might get a special promotion throughout the season. And so thank you once again, Tyler, for the support of the podcast in 2023. And so now to the lineup. We only had a couple cautions last episode. So the new pole sitter is Senor Jessup, unfortunately.
Whoa!
Yes.
I'm protesting.
Yeah. Reluctantly.
I just want to say something here to all our fans and all the other people talking on here. This is where you're going to find your leader the rest of the year. There's not going to be much of a change.
Now,
I am going to dominate the pole position.
I'm going to throw the
Jeremy Keller
because
dominated the Ironman 100. That's where I'm going to be.
Here's why we're throwing the caution on this. Because that is a very false statement that deserves a caution.
It's not false until it's been proven false, and it has not been proven yet.
Well, let's put people.
I do have a question. So Keller was passed multiple times in that race, so it wasn't a true full-out domination.
He lapped up to fourth, John. That's pretty dang good.
Yeah, but that was towards the end of the race. Before that, he wasn't really leading there for a while, so that might be a false statement there.
I don't think so. After hearing some strategic talk with him after the race, he played it out exactly how he wanted it to play out. So I could do the same strategy and just let you guys all pass me right away. And then when the show gets down to the nitty gritty, I'm just going to be pulling away at the end.
So Mason, I do actually have a question here really quick too. So we actually went to a new lineup procedure this week, right? So we're actually doing, it's now point invert, right? For our lineups. So yes. With that being said, Jessup is now on the pole just because of that point invert.
Right. I don't know. Well, with the way the lineup is, I don't know if this looks good for whoever, but right now it's Jessup, then John, Becca, and myself.
Yeah, see, it's definitely point invert then because Jessup's in the pole position, so definitely point invert.
It could also be that I'm one of those traveling, podcasters who go from podcast to podcast, and I don't have exactly a great point average because I'm not there weekly. I'm only there for the big money shows.
Wow.
Typically, those big
whatever.
money shows aren't for points, so that means you wouldn't have a point average, so you'd start farther in the back.
Well, I could just be testing for the big money shows. Who knows? Or my podcast may or may not have been rained out that night.
Anyways.
Oh, this could be very true too.
So Becca, you're in a different location. How are you doing this week?
I'm good. I am currently in Nashville, Tennessee. It's been a crazy last 6 or 7 days just because I've been at the track. I was at the track last Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I had good intentions of going immediately home after the races to be a responsible adult and pack and sleep before my 6 a.m. flight. And then on Saturday, I was like, I need t-shirts for the podcast. And so I hit up like 6 or 7 drivers before the races during the pit meeting, which is bad time to do that. But all of those drivers either had sizes that didn't fit me, like they were larges, extra larges, which I could have bought them. But again, I don't want to swim in my t-shirt. I want to look good in my t-shirt. So then other drivers didn't have t-shirts at all. Some drivers were actually good drivers and were at the pit meeting. And then other drivers are like, yeah, I have 1 or 4 that you can choose from. I'm like, awesome, I'll take that one. Anyways, I really wanted to get a t-shirt from Hankberry. So immediately after the races on Saturday, I went over to the Hankberry pit area and he had already packed up. And then the Brennans were there. Yes, Jessup, questions?
Are you saying there are drivers who don't go to the pit meeting?
I saw several that weren't at the pit meeting.
I thought the pit meeting was mandatory.
Me too.
Maybe the pit meeting hadn't started yet.
And with that, Mason, I'm not giving Becca a caution flag. I'm giving those drivers a caution flag just to put them at the back of our field. You know you did wrong. And you shouldn't be allowed on the track if you are not.
Let's be real.
Those drivers are getting the caution. John, we are moving
not you,
our
Becca.
way
You're
up.
not getting a caution.
They may even be put a lap down tonight.
Well, anyways, my search for t-shirts did not go well. I got 1, but that's it. But anyway, after the races on Saturday, I saw Hankberry come in with wearing his new t-shirt for this year, and then he also gave some for the announcers, Larry, John, and Brock to give away over the weekend. And I really liked the t-shirt, and I wanted to go buy a t-shirt. But unfortunately, on Saturday night after the races, he had already packed up and left. He was pitted right next door to the Brennans, in which if you race fans, listeners, viewers, if you've ever met Brian and Alicia Brennan, they are some of the nicest people you'll ever meet, some of the most accommodating people you ever meet. And my plan to immediately go home after the races, it was foiled real quickly because they were like, "Hi, how's it been? How did tonight go? How's Jessup and the cats and the dogs and how's life and here's a beer and here let's take some shots." I didn't take shots. I'm just joking. But anyways, my plan to go home immediately after the races. That didn't go plan out so well. After 5 drinks later, it was 3 a.m. and I still had to pack. And so I rushed home, packed, took maybe a 45-minute nap, and then I woke Jessup up at 5 o'clock to take me to the airport, and I was on a plane by 6 a.m. That is my crazy week. Been 3 days at the track, and then I hopped on a plane and been here in Nashville the last couple days.
You know, Mason, fun fact about this. Becca was not the last Pelkey in the pits on Saturday.
Wow.
I was out there pretty late, shutting her down with the Brennans and the Wallow crew, and
this never happens, by the way.
This never happens.
I know. You gotta get out there. Gotta get out there, play left, right, center, have some fun with the Brennans and just everyone, really. There's a lot of people. Well, not a lot of people, but a good core people that are fun to be around.
I did get a nice compliment on Saturday night. And I was like,
Thank
tell
you.
the board member. No, not you. I got a nice compliment. Just if you remember the compliment. Anyway, so I got a nice compliment after the races on Saturday night. Jason Wallace, dad, radio, was like, you know what, Becca? You're the reason why most drivers come to this racetrack. And I was like, oh, that is so kind. Tell a board member that. And then Jessup walked over and I was like, radio, tell Jessup what you told me. And he did. And I was like, oh.
I don't remember this.
And we drove home.
Boy, glad you guys made it home safely. John, please tell me you had a safer weekend than Becca and Jessup did.
It
Why
was
do I
definitely
not?
safer. Yeah. It was definitely safer than the two of them. So I am truly the responsible one of the group. So as we all know. So with that being said, I had a lot of fun on Friday night announcing with Larry and doing some other stuff up there in the tower base with Brock as well. And we just had a ball up in the tower. We threw a lot of bones at Becca, and it was quite actually entertaining throughout the night. There was one point that Larry and I were laughing so hard that neither one of us could really talk on the mic during that time, and so we had to have Brock talk. So, yep, so that part was very comical. And then Saturday I was over with Stacy and the crew in Jamestown, helping out with Jamestown's show on Saturday night. And yeah, it was a good weekend overall. And then we're taping here on a Wednesday, so this will get posted here a little bit later in the week. But we also went through, and Jessup and myself, along with my mom, ended up attending the night one of the Tougher Than Dirt tour over at Underwood in McLean County Speedway. So we were over there on Tuesday. So it has been a fun week so far with racing.
Awesome. Yeah, I had a fun weekend too. I kind of did a little bit of everything. I'll kind of explain as we go through our recap. But yeah, I was exhausted on Sunday, to say the least. It was a very, very busy weekend, and but I'm all rejuvenated and revived for this week, and so we'll get right into our weekly recap, our track packer report. As we have a caution on the Speedway. What's the caution for?
Do I not get to say how I was?
Yeah, you already said you closed on the track on Saturday. That was how you were.
Yeah, so it's been a busy week for a lot of us, and some in
Not
more ways
me,
than others.
apparently.
Well, you get to say your piece now, because we'll get right into who or
No.
what are you repping with the official start of the episode. Go ahead, Jessup. Who or what are you repping?
Much like my previous week of irrelevancy, the trend continues with my shirt of irrelevance. It is Todd Van Eaton. He drives a stock car from Iowa. It is a nice shirt. The color schemes are black, orange, green, and white. It is very nice. I'm emotional. Go ahead, John. Talk about your blue shirt.
Go ahead, John. Move on from Robot
So-
Pokey.
Now, what am I repping this week? So I have
Probably
been
a shirt, John.
I have been taking all of you guys. Oh, that is a very nice shirt, Jessup. That is a very nice modified too. Okay, so race fans and drivers, as you know, as part of the podcast, we have been going down memory lane with the stock car stampedes. I mean, we've got up to 2013 shirt for the 2012 year. And unfortunately, this week, I have decided it's time for a little bit of a break. So we can only take so much history and so much absorbing of that history before we have to move on to a different shirt. So this week is the Gumpke Memorial in Jamestown. I was going to rep one of the Gumpke Memorial shirts. However, I've repped all three of them on the podcast already. So I didn't want to be the first one to duplicate, so I decided not to. So what I wanted to do, though, is wear something that was kind of bluish as well in honor of some of the drivers that are going to be honored here on Saturday night. So I am also wearing a Jamestown Speedway shirt, but this is the Jamestown Speedway workers shirt. So Becca wore this earlier, a couple episodes ago, race fans and drivers, but you know what? I wear it better. So with that being said, I'm wearing the blue shirt here for the workers for Jamestown Speedway. As you guys know, Becca and I do a lot of the announcing over in Jamestown, and it is very much a shade of blue that very much stands out on anything that we go to from a racetrack, which is good because obviously you want to be able to see people in the infield or when they come onto the track or anything else in bright colors. So that obviously is something that is very beneficial here as well.
Yeah, and it also helps to kind of know who are the people that you want to talk to if you have questions throughout the race night, whether they're in the stands or in the infield or pits. So yeah, it's a nice, I like having like shirts designated for track workers or volunteers.
And this is one of the reasons why I very seldom don't wear this shirt at the racetrack, because I don't want anybody coming up and talking to me.
That is actually hilarious.
It's also very true. John is not very personable when he's at the track. Leave
I
Mr.
was
Miserable alone.
I was going to. Okay, before we go forward here. Crap, where did I put it? So, oh, it's right here.
And caution on John for bringing out a delay
Yeah,
of the
prepared
race.
for this. Mason doesn't want to edit this.
No, this is good, but he's getting a caution. Mason, put him to the back.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's nice. I like that.
Oh, James Lawson made that for you.
Yes, that's the one I'm going to wear to Mandan one of these days.
A classic
But
Mr.
first, I have to be
Miserable
in the
shirt.
pit check.
Can you debut it? Actually, wear it one day on the podcast first.
Oh, I will. I'll wear it beforehand on the podcast.
Okay.
I will count that as a racing shirt too.
I will too.
It fits me. So, it's definitely me from the racetrack. It's my nickname.
Very cool. Well, awesome shirt, John. Becca, who or what are you repping?
This week I am repping our Ironman 100 winner from Saturday night, Jeremy Keller. This is one of his shirts from a couple of years ago. I don't think he has anything new as of recently, but this is one of the shirts that Jeremy has for purchase or available for purchase at his trailer. So if you like this simple looking style shirt, you can definitely hit him up after the races in Mandan or wherever he travels. Maybe that's Dickinson and Jamestown. So you might see him there sometimes too. He's
Awesome.
also going on the Dakota Classic Modified Tour, which registration opens this week.
Good deal. Yeah, he's been knocking on the door, especially of the Ironman 100. He's been close the last couple of years in that race. And so congratulations, Jeremy, for knocking that one out. For my shirt, I wanted to rep kind of a Gumke shirt since that race is taking place this upcoming weekend, but we've kind of repped the Gumke shirt a lot and wanted to rep kind of a racer that we've lost over the years and kind of a race taking place this weekend that sort of symbolizes that. And so wearing a Too Strong shirt representing Robbie Conway, who passed away a few years ago, and also the Too Strong hat as well. And so they're part of the Tougher Than Dirt Tour, Thunder Mountain Speedway. They do a tribute to Robbie Conway during that race. And so wanted to represent Robbie Conway. It's a lot on a lot of racers' minds still to this day. I just remember like years ago when he passed, like there's so many tributes on the cars and so many tributes in the stands at the various racetracks, not only in North Dakota, but around the country too. Like Robbie had a really significant impact on the racing community. And so repping him for this episode. And of course, we were going to touch on this quite a bit throughout the episode with the Don Gumke Racers Memorial that not only talks about Don Gumke and his legacy, but also the legacy of all the fallen racers that have happened or occurred over the last year or so. And so it's a very special weekend for many different aspects and many different races. And so that is who and what we're repping for episode 15 this week. So getting into the Track Packer report, starting on Thursday, I made the trip over to the Norman County Raceway for their season opener. Had a little bit of a lighter car count, but there was no rain at the track. There was no rain at the track.
We're very proud of you, Mason.
It was close, though. I won't deny it was close. Like it's so weird. Like if you're, I don't know what the weather's been like around you guys, but especially around Fargo, it's always been hot the last couple of weeks during the day, and then we have pop-up storms that show up like randomly. Like it'll downpour in one area like for 10-15 minutes, and then if you go like a mile away, dry, just completely dry. It's been so isolated over the last couple of weeks, and so it's kind of been hit or miss on weather for like the racetracks and seeing if they do get moisture, but thankfully, it stayed away from the Norman County Raceway on Thursday. And so went there for the opener. Had a really good fan attendance. I really liked the fan count there. And the track was pretty tricky to read. So it wasn't tacky and it wasn't dry. It was a mix of both. And so we had a lot of drivers that kind of had trouble reading the track conditions. It would be like they go into the corners, they'd have grip, and all of a sudden they wouldn't, and they'd spin out. Like we had several leaders during the night that spun out from the lead in their feature races. And so that made for some interesting results and interesting finishes. And so getting into the results, starting off in the Midwest Modifieds, Corey Stork made the long trip up from Morris, Minnesota to get the win in the Midwest Modifieds. Aaron Blacklance, who's typically the guy to beat there, was one of those guys that kind of spun out on the first lap and unfortunately resulted in the DNF. So rough start to the year at Norman County for him. Hobby Stocks went to a familiar face, Brody Eckert in the B2. Sport Mods went to Ryan Rested after the long race leader Luke Johnson was leading with 3 to go and spun out in the lead in corners 1 and 2. And unfortunately, rough break for Luke Johnson. So Ryan Rested inherited the win there. In the Legends, a guy who's on a big hot streak over the last couple weeks, Evan Hendrickson got the feature win in the NX Legends. So congratulations to him. Race Saver Sprints went to Andy Pake in the 64, and then Stock Cars, which was a wild race, starting with Daniel Aberly, who there was a car that got sideways on the first lap or after the first lap in turns 1 and 2, and everyone kind of checked up and went to avoid, and Daniel nicked a Uke tire and unfortunately barrel rolled off at turn 2 on the second lap. So he was okay, thankfully. Car is not too bad. His dad already fixed the roof on that, so he should be back out on the track hopefully soon. And so glad to see that Daniel was okay after that crash.
Mason, is that the video of the Uke tire just rolling down the infield?
Nope, that was at I-94 on
That was I-94, yep.
Okay, sorry. Wrong Uke tire story. My apologies.
Yeah, this Uke tire didn't really move. The car definitely took the brunt of the damage on this instance. And yeah, I mean, the stock cars was a wild race. They had a lot of side-by-side 2 and 3 wide action, a lot of cautions too. There was a lot of spins, a lot of contact, but Rob Van Mill emerged from it all and got the feature win on opening night at Norman County Raceway. And so a long night due to all the cautions on Thursday night at Norman County. So if that's the action that's going to be at Norman County all season, you might want to take a Thursday night trip over there to Ada. And so now moving on to the Bismarck Mandan crowd and the big race over at Dacotah Speedway, the Ironman 100. And so I will start with Jessup. Jessup, how did the Ironman 100 weekend go from your perspective?
It was good. I wish there were more cars. I wish there were more fans. But overall, pretty good racing. And we had some good travelers too. So that is my perspective on it. As Friday night, I was dealing with a lot of off-camera situations that needed to be addressed. And then there were some camera issues that we were addressing. So it wasn't exactly the smoothest weekend for me. But I hope everyone who came had fun. And I hope to see them more in the future. So I'll let John and Becca discuss it a little more.
Yeah, I'll move to John, since John, you were just there for Friday night's portion. So talk about your night at Mandan.
Yeah, no, I was there just for Friday. So Larry McFall came down and helped us out this weekend with me going over to Jamestown on Saturday. So Larry and I got to announce on Friday, and it was kind of a little bit of a dream come true for me because I wanted to announce with Larry in my career from an announcing piece. So that was kind of fun to bounce ideas back and forth and just have that different dynamic as well up there, which was kind of cool. And then Brock was right there with us too, so he was able to help out throughout the night, and it was kind of a blast for the three of us going back and forth. And then we'd have Becca speak up on the mic here or there certain times of it as well, and there was definitely some muted situations that ended up happening, but besides that, it was a lot of fun overall. The races themselves, I will literally say that congratulations to the Wissota Street Stock drivers. They ran clean and green for 40 laps during their Ironman feature, so they never had one caution. So that was awesome to see. The Legends, they put on an absolutely outstanding race. They were using absolutely every single inch of that speedway, with right next to the guardrail to right on the berm, down the front straightaway and coming off a 2 on the back straightaway. So that was kind of cool to see, and everywhere in between too. So a lot of really good racing there too. And then the mods had their qualifying features to set the positions essentially for Saturday night, and those were kind of fun to see. A lot of hard fought battles in there, and a little bit of I shouldn't say drama per se, but a little bit in the second one, considering that you had your top 3 guys in points directly in the second qualifier. So that part was kind of interesting to see as well. Nice.
Yeah, I haven't listened to the full broadcast replay of the Ironman, but I've listened to the first hour of you and Larry on the mic, and it's good entertainment. I know he was kind of like asking some questions, kind of getting to know some of the drivers in the classes he's not familiar with, and it was good banter. I enjoyed it.
Just wait till you get a little bit farther into the video, because you'll be set up for some really good laughs.
I can't wait for it. I'm sure at Becca's expense. So go ahead, Becca. How did it go from your perspective?
No, it was actually really cool to have Larry McFall on the mic in Mandan with John, because normally in the past when Larry has been on the mic, he's always been with Lindsay. Lawson, and they always did a nice job for the Dakota Classic Modified Tour. But it was really cool to have Larry come down for one of our bigger shows that wasn't necessarily tied to the Dakota Classic Modified Tour and get to announce with the Dakota Speedway crew. So that was super cool. Thank you to Larry for coming down and doing that for us. Friday night, it was an interesting night because the weather was super weird. Like, as you're alluding to about weather in Fargo, Mason, I wish I would have taken a screenshot of the radar on Friday night around North Dakota, because there were all these little popcorn showers all over North Dakota, and it was super frustrating because I was getting tons of text messages, not only from drivers, volunteers, and just like fans too. Like, hey, are you guys racing tonight? Are you guys gonna cancel? Like, all these random questions. And I was like, no. They're like, the sun had been shining most of the day, but the clouds kind of rolled in. But there was no rain at the track whatsoever. And so drivers and volunteers were literally driving through these like popcorn showers, but when you drove through them, they were kind of like monsoons because it was such heavy rain. Like, you had to like slow down to like 30 miles an hour. So it's super crazy. And I think that really kept some of our drivers away. In fact, I know I did, because I had several drivers tell me they weren't coming. So that was unfortunate because of that, we did have some lower than expected car counts. So that was a bummer. But overall, we did have some great quality of racing, and I'm super pumped about that. So night one, we had our Wissota Street Stocks, Inex Legends, and then we had the 2 qualifying features for night 2 of the Ironman 100 in the Wissota Street Stocks, as John alluded to. They went clean and green, all 40 laps, no cautions whatsoever. But Hunter Domagala literally just ran away with that. He won by 9 seconds over second place Jeff Hellman. Incredible, just show of speed and power for that 97 machine. So congratulations to Hunter Domagala and the Wissota Street Stocks. Donovan Weist held on to pick up the victory in the Inex Legends, his second of the season at the Dakota Speedway, back-to-back wins for him in Mandan. And then we had our 2 big $1,000 to win IMCA qualifying features. And basically how you finished in these feature events is how you would start for tomorrow's race. So qualifying feature number 1 would set the inside row, and it was a great battle between Quentin Kinsley and Mark Dahl. Kinsley started on the pole. He led most of that race, but right at the end, Mark Dahl, who's been having a phenomenal season so far, he made a late race pass to take home the victory and grab and earn the pole position for the Ironman 100 on Saturday. And then in qualifying feature number 2, it was a great battle between Marlon Seiler and Jeremy Keller. Jeremy Keller, he's finished runner-up in this race the last 2 years, so he really wanted to come out strong on this particular weekend, and came up short at the line on Friday night, finishing runner-up to Marlon Seiler. So Marlon Seiler would be the outside pole winner for Saturday's race. So that was night 1. Mason, should we go right into night 2?
Yep, go right on ahead.
All right, guys, you want to say anything about night 2 or Jessup? John wasn't there.
I was still dealing with issues off camera and with the camera. So my night again got hindered by board stuff.
Yeah.
So everybody else got to have fun, but it was really nice having Larry there. It was cool having him at our track and announcing, and him and Brock did a very nice job. I heard a lot of, well, let me rephrase this. I've been hearing a lot of very nice compliments from drivers and fans in regards to Brock and his progression of being an announcer. So that's pretty cool. And I really enjoy having Brock around. He fits right in with our crew. He's a good individual. So I know Brock will probably listen to this later. So hi, Brock.
Yes. This weekend was super crazy, and I don't actually know why. Like, I've taken on extra responsibilities behind the scenes, which is why you don't hear me on the mic as much in Mandan. But even though I had help, it still felt like I don't know why. And hopefully fans and drivers really didn't pick up on it, with the exception of the fact that there was no timing and scoring for the first 50 laps of the modified feature. That was a big one. I think everyone noticed that. But all the other crazy stuff that happened behind the scenes, hopefully no one picked up on that, because it was mentally and physically draining. But night 2 started off, we had our IMCA Sport Compacts, Hobby Stocks, and then we brought our friends in the IMCA Sport Mods down. we had 6 Sport Compacts. So thank you to our IMCA Sport Compact drivers in North Dakota for coming on down with us. We have doubled our numbers. That's great. Let's keep those numbers up. So if you are an IMCA Sport Compact driver and you're listening or watching this podcast, we want to see you down in Mandan. We want to see that exciting battles on the track. So we had 6 of them. Chris Yost picked up the victory down in Mandan. James Gilbert grabbed the lead early in that feature event, but Chris Yost chased him down and picked up the win, his 3rd of the season at Dacotah Speedway. In the hobby stock feature event, we had 21 of them on Saturday night. It was a great race between John Gartner Jr., Derek Appert, and Bill Hultberg, but it was Derek Appert who held off those 2 drivers, your top 3 in the point standings at Dacotah Speedway, to win his 2nd feature of the season, back-to-back wins for him. We had 9 IMCA Sport Mods on Saturday night. Thank you to all those drivers who traveled near and far to come race with us. Wish we would have had more, but I wonder with the upcoming Dakota Tougher Than Dirt Tour, it was only a few days away after that, after Saturday. I wonder if that may have kept some people home. That was unfortunate. We would have loved to have more sport mods there, but the 9 that we did get put a phenomenal race on, and oh gosh, it was so much fun to watch Rich Pavlicek and Robbie Roselli battle for the win. And this was an all race ordeal. Like Rich Pavlicek tried high, he tried low, he just could not get around Robbie Roselli. Fantastic racing. And they went clean and green all 20 laps in your IMCA Sport Mods, but it was Robbie Roselli who picked up the victory. And then it was the 100 lap, $5,000 to win IMCA modified feature event, the Ironman 100. As we kind of sort of danced around the subject, timing and scoring kind of dropped before the feature. That we figured out why it happened. Thank you to our volunteers in the tower. Even though we were hand scoring, and I straight up tell you, we were hand scoring for the first 50 laps of that event. The person that was working the Orbit's computer, she was trying to figure out why this happened, like trying to figure out how to get this back. And she actually did at the halfway pit stop. She figured out why this happened, and we got timing and scoring back up and running for the last 50 laps. But I still didn't trust it, so I was still hand scoring those last 50 laps. So it was a crazy race. But oh gosh, all the fun and exciting stuff happened the first 50 laps when I was hand scoring. So I never got to watch all the fun battles until I had to watch the replay back. But it was a really good and exciting first 50 laps. You had many lead changes. The racing groove was top to bottom. You had lots of passing on the track. And you had leaders such as Marlon Seidler, Jason Walla, Jeremy Keller got up there and led some laps before Aaron Turnbull. Thank you, Aaron Turnbull, if you listen to this podcast, for coming on down. We haven't seen him in a couple of years, not since before COVID. He had terrible luck. I think they had issues traveling down to the Dakota Speedway with their toter. They got to the track finally on Friday. They had engine problems on Friday. They had to borrow a motor from Sean Strand, and he drove it from the last row on the field all the way to first place before that caution, that mandatory pit stop came out on lap 50. So fantastic run, fantastic showing in a brand new car for Aaron Turnbull. After the pit stop, the drivers got a chance to add fuel, tear-offs, and big changes that they wanted. Jeremy Keller basically, I don't know if he was kind of just like holding back those first 50 laps or what, but he let loose those last 50 laps. And as Jessup said earlier in the podcast, he lapped all the way up to the top 5 and won his very first Ironman 100. He had finished runner-up in this race twice before, so this really meant a lot for him to pick up the victory. And congratulations to your Ironman winner, Jeremy Keller.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds like a hectic night and kind of rough timing for the timing and scoring to go out on a 100-lap race. I'm sure that was a little bit of a panic.
Oh gosh, and I grabbed Greg Heupel because he had come down with Larry McFall from Minot, and I thought for sure, I know he's been around racing for many years. I thought for sure he had done hand scoring, and I wanted him just to call the numbers as he saw them cross the finish line. He had never done that before, and I grabbed someone who had never done this, and I was like, oh my gosh, but he was really good for just getting in there and just calling off the numbers as he saw them. He was a natural. He fit in. He really helped to make that process really smooth. And I have to say, I think Kelsey Vetter and I, we pretty much nailed it on timing and scoring. I don't think there were too many hiccups. Had it been work in the first 50 laps from what we had on our notes. So
Yeah,
it was quite the night.
it sounds like it. So that was on Saturday that the timing and scoring went down for you guys, right?
Yes.
So that's interesting because, well, I'll get into the I-94 recap here right now. Because I was there for the 2 days of the King of the Dirt, Dick Johann King of the Dirt. Transponder system went down before the street stock feature on Friday night, so that was interesting. That was
or did you figure it out?
I believe they were hand scoring from what I heard, and I think they got it back up after the street stock feature. But it was quite a delay trying to get everyone in order, and then it was kind of thrown off a little bit because one of the cars that made the feature wasn't out there. And so they had to reshuffle the lineup and hand scoring. And so it was a mess for like 10, 15 minutes. And so must have been just one of those weekends where technology was just like, you know what? I'm just not going to cooperate. But anyways, getting into the I-94 recap. Yeah, I was there for both days of the King of the Dirt. Street Stock Tour, the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour was one of the main tickets. And then also on Saturday, the NLRA late models were part of the program as well. So on Friday, they had 6 car classes. They had a lot of cars there and several of the classes. And so a nice full field and nice full night of racing both nights. And so really hot too. Boy, it was a hot weekend in I-94. But thankfully the track was in pretty good shape for the entire weekend. So there was some really good racing. And so getting the results here, as there's a lot of results to get through. So Midwest Mods went to Zach Benson. He had a nice battle with Lucas Rodin in that race, and the two actually made contact with a couple laps to go, and thankfully they kept straight and they were able to finish out the race. And Benson was saying in victory lane that his car was actually broken. He's surprised he finished. And so good job to Zach Benson for hanging on for the feature win. The street stocks went to Nick Trainer, who also has another win the previous week from Viking Speedway. So he's got 2 street stock tour wins. He was kind of watching the top 2 or 3 battle. It was almost a sweep of Wisconsin drivers in the top 3 to 5 positions. Like the Wisconsin drivers really showed up and they were fast all weekend. So Nick Trainer got around Andrew Hansen and Kyle Jeanette late in the race to score the win there. And also Braden Brower was in the mix as well. Super stocks went to a familiar face we all know in victory lane, Shane Zabrowski. So no surprise there in the super stocks. The Gen X late models was a good battle between Brad Staples and Dave Moss. Usually when Dave Moss gets out in the front of the race, he's really hard to catch and pass. But Brad Staples accomplished that and passed him with a couple laps to go. So big congrats out to Brad Staples. I think the race of the night on Friday was the Wissota Modifieds. Granted, Ryan Gerke kind of ran away with that race, but there was a lot of slide jobs being thrown throughout the field. They started all 29, I believe it was 29 Wissota Modifieds. They only had like 1 or 2 cautions, and they were put on a show all around the track. It was awesome to see. If you haven't checked out that race, highly recommend doing that. But congrats to Ryan Gerke on the win in the mods. And then short trackers went to Sean Beto, and he's been kind of the dominant figure in the short trackers over at I-94 in particular. So those are the winners on Friday night. Saturday ended up being a very busy day for me because, as you guys know, I'm very tied in with the Street Stock Tour, and I was helping promote that. And also, I ended up having another couple of duties. I ended up doing all the victory lane interviews for the feature winners, and so got to hang out in the infield for the A-Maids, and which is it's a fun perspective. I will say I had a good time. Kind of like, I was recording a little bit with my phone, but kind of just staying away from the camera and just kind of watching the race from the infield. It's a way different perspective, and it was fun because it was like, okay, watching the leaders, it's like, okay, what questions am I gonna ask them in victory lane? That was like my main worry. It's like, okay, what should I ask them to make sure that they actually talk a little bit? Because I'm sure, like Becca and John, that you want to ask questions to get the drivers to kind of speak a little bit and not like ask yes or no questions, because some of them, they don't like to talk. They're kind of like very stale when it comes to talking. But thank you to all the winners for actually speaking about their race and their win. And so for the Midwest Mods, Mike Nichols got his first King of the Dirt, held off Haley Lee, who was coming before like the last caution. She was going to make a run at him, but Mike Nichols held on for the win there. Street Stocks had another fantastic race with same top 3 from the previous night: Kyle Jeanette, Braden Brower, and Nick Trainer. Nick Trainwright was leading and unfortunately got into the wall with about 6 laps to go and lost the lead. And it was a near photo finish between Kyle Jeanette and Braden Brower, with Kyle Jeanette scoring his second career Dirt Central Street Stock Tour win. The NLRA late models were in attendance, and Brad Sang had a nice battle with Ryan Michelson to start the race, but after that, just absolutely put it on kill mode and was never contested for the win. And so, congratulations to Brad Sang for notching another marquee win. Super Stocks went to Trevor Nelson, held off Shane Sabraski for that win. The mods was also another good race. Justin Fremming has just been on a tear. It's been incredible to see like how few races he has behind the wheel, but was so modified, and he absolutely dominated that race. Led from start to finish, checked down in the field after every restart, and he scored his first King of the Dirt. He's been second multiple times in the Midwest mod, so getting his first attempt in the mod, the King of the Dirt, is pretty incredible. Sean Beto swept the weekend in the short trackers, and then in the Gen X late models, Dave Moss got redemption and got the win for the King of the Dirt. And so that was a busy weekend in I-94, and they have this next weekend off, so a well-deserved week off for I-94. So the other event taking place that we were at on Saturday was Jamestown. John, talk to us about Jamestown.
Yeah, so I was over in Jamestown on Saturday with Stacy. So the two of us from Dacotah Speedway were over in Jamestown on Saturday night, as Stacy and I do both tracks. So we had to split our time evenly up there as well. But it was overall, knock on wood, it was a pretty smooth night. It started off with a bang. And by saying that, I mean Jaden Ettinger rolled her car coming down the front straightaway on the first lap of the first heat race of the night. Luckily the roll cage was pretty good. Roll cage itself was pretty good. It didn't look like that was too badly damaged by any means for that. But the rest of the car was pretty much just kind of all apart. Everything from sheet metal flew off and everything else from there. So yeah, it's a tough break for her, but she was okay as well. So car was good and she was okay. And so that was a positive on that piece of it. But I'm going through the night with the racing related stuff. Feature events. So Bombers did a really good feature between Travis Ettinger and Jaden Michelson. Both those drivers were involved in the week 1 crash that happened during the season opener last week. So they started up front and they put on a show. Travis was about maybe 3-4 car lengths ahead at one point, and Jaden reeled him in and multiple times looked low on him on corners 1 and 2, and then again in 3 and 4. Then he tried the high side, tried everything to get around Travis, and Travis held him off. So Travis ended up winning, and Jaden was second in that feature event. In your Midwest Modifieds, super good race in your Midwest Modifieds as well. You had 3 drivers up front that were battling hard for that win, and that was Jaron Wimstead, Jared Klein, as well as Tanner Tice. So Tanner started with the lead, ended up getting passed by Jaron. Jaron started back in row 4, worked his way to the front. And it was really interesting to watch because bottom side of the track was starting to come in more. So they were migrating down towards the bottom. And all of a sudden I went back to about 4th or 5th place, and I was I think I was announcing like Jason Halverson was back there in the 4th spot, battling back there as well, and then some of the other guys back there in 5th, 6th, and 7th. And it was really interesting because Jim Morlock was coming through the field, and I looked up, and Jaron Wimstead all of a sudden was high coming out of turn 2. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because he had about a 3-4 car length lead, and Tanner Tice was right back at him to the bottom, and Jared Klein was right there in the rear bumper of Tanner. So they had a really good battle. Turns out Jaron ended up winning. Jared Klein ended up taking second, actually got past Tanner Tice when they hit the white flag. So as soon as they went underneath the flag stand for the white flag, Klein took over second and almost passed Wimstead coming out of turn 4 for the feature win. So that was a really good race for the Midwest Modifieds during that feature event. And turns out as soon as they crossed the line, Jaron Wimstead's right front tire went flat. So he had been feeling it throughout that whole feature event, because he said there was something that was not right. He said all of a sudden he got super tight and he didn't know why he was getting super tight. So he crossed the line, and that's why it went completely flat. And it was on the rim by the time he hit victory lane. So good job to him, and also good job to Jared Klein. He finished second on Saturday and was your future winner down in Brown County on Friday, and a great race down there too. I was talking to Cody Papke about that in Jamestown. Legends probably had the best race of the night in my opinion, directly, and the reason why I say that is because the battle for the lead was heated in that race. Really, really, really good slide jobs and crossovers by both Austin Weist and Glenn Mitchell. Those two drivers started on the front row as they were involved in a wreck on week one. Started on the front row, and that race was very entertaining for the first at least 10 to 11 laps. And the reason why is because you would have Austin would go high through turns 1 and 2. Glenn would dive under him and take the lead coming out of turn 2. Turns 3 and 4, they would flip flop. Glenn would go high and then Austin would go low. And again, it was another crisscross for the lead. So they did have multiple laps for the lead. And then you had the guys that were coming towards the front that started deeper in the field. You had Alex Gakowski running through the middle and the high side that was coming to the front. You had Donovan Weist coming to the front. Well, Donovan obviously in his blue car now over in Jamestown. So the blue car running towards the front. Also, you had Preston Martin who was making his charge towards the front. Preston at one point, I think he passed 3 cars in one turn. I remember they got a little crossed up in front of him. All of a sudden I looked up, I'm like, oh, he's right on the rear bumper of Austin running in second. So Preston ended up passing Austin on a restart, cruised away to the win. So Preston ended up winning on Saturday night. Alex was second again. Alex has been back-to-back seconds in Jamestown to start off his season over there. And just a really good race overall. So good job to the legend drivers. Everything was pretty much clean and green. And interesting little tidbit here. So Talon Seekerson, who rolled on week one, had a brand new car that he raced last week on Saturday night. So he's back in the Legends division, and his brother did not race, but Corey Seekerson was back in a Legend. So Corey was first laps out there in a Legend for a while as well, which I think was kind of a learning opportunity for him since he hasn't been in a car in a while. And the last time he was in a car was in a Total bottle. So that part was very interesting. Street stocks, they went clean and green. They never had one caution. The best battle on the track for that race, because Jaden Christ, he just kind of walked away with it a little bit, was usually right around a second ahead, usually for that whole feature event. But the battle on the track was between second place Jeremy Castro, which thank you, Jeremy, again for coming over this past week to both the Dakota Speedway and the Jamestown Speedway again. Jeremy travels to us from Laurel, Montana, so it's quite a haul on there too, but it's really nice to see him down here competing with us. Jeremy ran second that whole race until Dustin Erickson got around him on the high side on the last lap. And Dustin was humming. I mean, when he found that second groove, he went up there on lap 18 out of 20, passed Castro as he went into turns 1 and 2 on lap 20 when it came across on lap 19 before they completed that. And it literally was I would say give him maybe about 2 to 3 more laps and he would have been right on the rear bumper of Jaden Christ. So Dustin was definitely flying in that feature event. So good run for him. The other race though of the night was obviously the modifieds, and the modified race was quite interesting because anytime you have John Nord starting towards the front, it's kind of a bad sign for the rest of the field. So John basically kind of walked away from that feature event. He at most of the points of it, he was about 2 seconds ahead of the field. For most of it, they had a caution come out with about maybe 10 laps to go, 8 to 10 laps to go. It put Jordan Sowers, who is having a really nice start to his season, in right on his rear deck lid, along with Marcus Tomlinson. And Marcus started 11th in that feature event and worked his way up to third and passed Jordan on the restart, but really didn't have anything for John. So Marcus ended up second. John was your feature winner there for that class. And then also congratulations to your slingshot winner, AJ Matsky. Matsky was doubled up. He went back to back here within your slingshots as well. And then Reed Ketterling, first time on the podium up in Jamestown Victory Lane for some Coogan. So that was kind of a fun night overall. 83 cars, which was definitely not a bad car count considering Manning had the special going on to the west of Jamestown, and then Fergus Falls had the big special going on to the east of Jamestown. So not a bad night overall with any type of racing or any type of car counts in Jamestown, and looking forward now to this weekend.
Yeah, I'm expecting to be a pretty substantial car count this weekend, especially when you mentioned like the 2 specials that were taking on place on the other side of Jamestown. And so, yeah, nice strong field and sounds like some really good racing. So that's encouraging for this weekend. The last race of the weekend before we get to John and Jessup's experience at McLean County, I was at the Buffalo River to finish out the weekend. Main ticket again was the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour. We had 23 cars there for the Sunday night, which I was content with because Sunday nights are tough for travelers, and we lost a few of the Wisconsin drivers as they traveled back home, and it's a long drive, especially on a Sunday night to travel back home. I know a couple of them I think stayed over, but had a nice diverse field of cars there for the 23 cars that did show up. And so just getting into the results right away. Hobby stocks went to Chad Visser in the 17. He's one of the Brainerd hobby stocks, and they have a good contingent of Brainerd cars that come over there throughout several of their classes. And so he was working the high side and was passing one car after another each and every single lap, and got past leader Brad Orvidal with a couple laps left and hung on for the win. Short trackers went to the 701 of Hunter Goulet. Found out that is the third different car he's raced this year. So he's been had some troubles with the other two, but this third car seems to be really a trustworthy car, and he's really fast in it. So congratulations to Hunter Goulet on the win there. Sport mods went to Scott Jacobson. Shout out to Jaden Pavlicek, who led several laps of that feature race before kind of getting snookered by the veterans a little bit, and unfortunately spun out with a few laps to go. But Scott Jacobson claiming the win there. I believe that was his first win of the season. I could be wrong on that. Lightning sprints went to Alan Trushinsky. He pretty much ran away with that and was darting in and out of lap traffic. It's crazy watching lightning sprints go through lap traffic. They kind of just zig and zag, and they move quick through there. And so NX Legends had a lot of caution flags. Unfortunately, they had a really nice car count. I want to say it was 26, I think, was there on Sunday. So really good field of Legends. That's really encouraging to see, because I know they've had in the 30s over at Red River Valley and now in the mid to upper 20s over at Buffalo River. And so good solid foundation for that class. Hopefully with a little bit more experience, the cautions kind of become fewer and fewer as they go on. But after everything was settled, Alex Braseth got the win in the NX Legends. And then the street stocks finished off the night. Jeff Nowak looked like he had it in the bag. The track kind of rubbered up towards the end of the night, and so it was kind of a fight for the bottom. Looked like Jeff was going to run away with it and just slipped a little bit with a lap and a half to go out of turn 2. And Johnny Carter, who won last year's Street Stock Tour race, made the pass coming into turn 3 and 4, coming to the white flag, and got the feature win. And so it was his 4th night on the car, and a new car, and he's already in victory lane. And so that spells trouble for the rest of the competitors in this area. And so congratulations to Johnny Carter, and congratulations to all the feature winners over at the Buffalo River Speedway. So we already have some racing that's taking place this week. So Jessup, did you want to talk about your experience on Tuesday, or did you want to get into the schedule?
Well, John, what would you like to do first?
Let's talk about Tuesday, and then we'll get into the schedule.
Well,
first, Jessup, you're also watching the Wednesday night 2 of the Tougher the Nerd Show. Do you want to talk about that as well, or no?
Oh yeah, he's doing some inside research.
He's doing
we could do both. We could do both as well. So Jessup, do you want me to take Tuesday?
Well, we can.
I mean, we can both take Tuesday.
We can
we'll
bounce
take
around on it, and yeah, that works.
So
go ahead, Josh.
I will start. I'll start with the stock cars. So stock cars on Tuesday night, over at McLean, they had 9 stock cars show up during McLean on Tuesday, and a really good race for the feature between Adam Goth and Jordan Boyce. And Jordan Boyce ended up getting him on the bottom with only a couple laps left, and ended up picking up the feature win. And Soretsky Will kind of used a bonsai move into 3 and 4, and passed Goth on that last lap. It was kind of funny. I hate to say this, but Jessup and I we were race fans for the night, and the two of us were cheering. He was cheering for Will, I was cheering for Adam, and the only reason why race fans is because fantasy
points.
One had picked one driver, one had picked the other driver, and we're like, no. so yeah, so the two of us were going at it from a fantasy perspective, which was kind of funny.
It was amusing, Mason.
It was.
I was imitating I was doing my best imitation of fanboy John, and I thought
it was pretty funny.
I thought Will's pass was. I thought Will's pass was clean and green. We stayed green.
It was so funny to see, and nothing against Will by any means on that one too, because he dove in there and got into a little bit of the rough stuff and got up into Adam, and it was just completely a racing thing and everything else. So yeah,
he would not be the only one that night diving it into corner 3 to make sure they had room and enough wheels to make the corner.
Correct. Yep, absolutely correct. But legends, Jessup legends.
There were a lot of legends, Mason. I believe there was
20.
So a very healthy field. The one OZ, not the 10Z, as there was some confusion over that. But our friend from Sydney, New South Wales, Glenn Mitchell got.
Good job, Jessup. You almost got a caution flag.
Yeah, but when you're the leader, you got to make sure you don't get cautions, John.
Can we call him the one Aussie?
Sure.
That's what it's meant to be. One
It
Aussie.
is. It's the one Aussie.
Well, it reads as 1 ounce.
He is right on that.
Right.
He is very
not
right
wrong.
on that.
Anyways, Glenn
But it was
really
not the
good...
10Z. Just to clarify, it was
Yep.
not the 10Z. It's the one Aussie.
It was a fun feature to watch. A lot of slicing and dicing. Corner 1 was very treacherous, and that happens from time to time. People call it character, which is a pretty... It definitely livened the race up for sure. Definitely the one that was really interesting to watch was watching Dustin Hagen. He had a very strong race. He was running I think it was the low side, John. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, he was right on the bottom.
Yeah.
And he had a really good 1 and 2 was better for him than 3 and 4. And 1 and 2, he could get deep into 1 and 2 and just gas it. And he had a great run.
Yep. And he was held off at the checkered flag by 0.0021. Was it something like
correct.
that, John?
Yep.
That's what I heard, yeah.
0.0021, Mason. So you can only imagine just the difference of an inch or two. So that was pretty cool, pretty exciting. Going from there, then it was all tougher than dirt. So, John, take the sport mods.
Yeah, the sport mods were actually a really good race. Justin Victor had a really, really good night overall in the 13 machine out of Estevan. I mean, he looked really strong on Tuesday. He was running that high side and he was kind of living on the edge a little bit. And every single lap, he would just get that run out of turns 3 and 4 as Gabe Deshaw, he's been on a tear this year, 18-year-old. And he has just been absolutely he's looked really good both in his stock car and also in his sport mod, especially the sport mod. And he finally worked past him. He finally eventually got around to him by working the middle part of the track and Justin messed up just a little bit through turns 1 and 2, and Gabe got around him on the bottom, and the rest was history with that too, with the win. Also, tough breakout there for Christopher Zenz. He blew up running second in basically a fireball on the back straightaway. So he had a tough night over there too. I mean, he ran really well until that happened. With that stuff. But some of the strong runners that you would think would be really, really strong on Tuesday kind of struggled a little bit. It was kind of interesting to see, like, Robbie Roselli wasn't super strong, still had a top 5, but wasn't super, super strong the whole entire night. Darren Medler had problems in his heat. He just did not look like he was up to power. Pulled in, and in the feature, he still didn't look like he was up to power. He did come through and finish 6th, but had some cautions to help him on that one too, but just did not look great. And then Darren Schoss was another one that didn't look bad in his heat race, but in the feature event, he ran in the back almost the whole time and just didn't really move a whole lot. Got involved in almost a couple wrecks.
Yeah, I could echo a lot of that. I mean, last night was kind of a weird night. It was like a voodoo night where
It was.
the cautions were early and often, and I would agree with John. I didn't think Darren had his strongest of nights, but you know what? He's still a hard charger in the IMCA Sport Mod feature going plus 11. So that there's a lot to be said about an individual's persistence and the ability to avoid the cautions as they come at them. So that was pretty interesting. Same with Robbie Roselli. He was hanging around, but it just didn't seem like I don't know if there was something missing with the setup, and I'm not a big setup guy. I don't know that stuff, but I can tell you it was definitely a little different race for him just watching him. But it was a fun sport mod feature.
They went 25 laps.
Yeah, they did. And then for the 20 lap hobby stock feature, it was Morgan Olmsted of Overton, Nebraska, taking the win over Mr. Excitement Brandon Bombardo of New Prague, Minnesota. And that was a really good finish too.
That was a really good race.
Yeah, all in all, it was a fun feature. And I think John and I talked about it on the drive home. It was interesting. I've never been to a Tougher Than Dirt Tour event or a race. So sitting there and sitting down low to the track, you feel really close to the track. And it was like watching bats out of hell racing.
Yes. That's
And
a good term for it.
Like I guess I would describe it as it was like watching gladiators. And it wasn't just like a slow build, it was right from the green flag of the feature. It was chaos everywhere. And it was like people were throwing slide jobs or attempting to throw slide jobs, except somebody would be there and then they'd push that car up into another car. And then that guy on the outside would, I don't know how, but he would push the whole pile back down to the bottom of the track. And then they were clawing. Another great descriptive word. They were clawing for every inch. Not CLAWING. It was CLAWIN apostrophe. It was just gnarly racing. It was awesome to watch. I honestly have not been that amused from a race in a long time. And I mean, there was a good number of cautions, but at the same time, you would think after like the third caution that things would like calm down. Nope. Right when the green flag would drop, it was panic, chaos, pandemonium all over again, and they were back to all-out war. It was great.
They left everything on the track. I mean, they were running at 150% from the time the green flag dropped to when it ended in that feature. Jessup and I and he touched on it a little bit. Towards the end of that race, Olmsted got a little bit farther ahead of Bombardo, so those two had kind of separated themselves, not far, but just a little bit. So the battle up front wasn't super, super tight, but the battle in the back.
Oh, we could have watched another 5 laps of it. They should have had 10 more laps. We could have had another
5 laps. They were 3 and 4 wide back there for the last 4 laps from about 10th to about 18th, and they were not separating themselves at all. So,
So was the track just like super tacky and had multiple lanes, or?
The track had multiple lanes. It definitely had some tack and definitely on several spots. With how warm it was yesterday and even today, as we saw like in Dickinson, for instance, it definitely had they tried to water as much as they could to get it into the track, and then it developed some soft spots, which is understandable for sure with the way that the heat is. Because we've seen several tracks now do that, especially with the way the heat has been so far this year. And it basically developed to where 1 and 2 had some rough spots for sure. 3 and 4 had a few as well, but 1 and 2 was probably the more spot where there was a few ruts. But honestly, it created actually some entertaining racing because drivers would try to navigate through them or try to actually hit them in the right spot to basically get a run off the turn. And that was really entertaining to watch, especially in the hobbies. That was really entertaining to watch.
Oh, they were fearless going into one. It was awesome. Like even the sport mods are pretty fearless going in.
Yes.
But it was like, damn the torpedoes. We're sending all of our crap into that corner one way or the other. And it was not
if we make it, we make it. If we don't, we don't. At least we tried.
There was no shortage of balls being thrown around into that corner.
All right. So what's going on for night 2 of the Tougher Than Dirt Tour, Jessup?
There are cars racing on a tour.
I know you're doing some insider research, so.
Well, it does appear, as I'm looking through the results here, it looks like Mr. Darren Medler got the win tonight in the sport mods, and he must have won the beanbag toss as well, as he started on the pin. So that's pretty exciting. Just reading off the top 5, Kelly Henderson jumped got second. He jumped up from 6th. Robbie Roselli held his position in 3rd. Tate Johnson went from 9th to 4th. And Christopher Zenz put a new motor in and ended up rounding out the top 5. It looks like I would have to believe your hard charger is going to be Justin Fichter going from 21st to 7th. So that was pretty exciting. The young Canadian's doing a nice job. In the Legends, it was Preston Martin continuing on a very good season. He's definitely on a hot streak right now. So he's looking pretty strong. He took 1st. 2nd went to Glenn Mitchell in the very controversial number scandal. Is it the 10Z, the 1OZ, the 10Z, the 1Oz?
1OZ.
Or is it the 1 ounce? We're not sure. He was followed by Noah Madler, who got 3rd from 3rd. Dayton Olheiser took 4th. Gage Madler rounded out the top 5. Your hard charger looks like pretty even passing throughout the whole field. Looks like it's going to be Tanner Hopper going to 8th from 12th. Oh, good job, bud. Nice job, Tanner. Then, rounding off the night was the IMCA Hobby Stock feature, and it was 20 laps. And another person who won their beanbag toss is Brandon Bombardo. Started on the pole, finished in the number 1 position. That is back-to-back nights for him. And Trevor Haas went from 7th to 2nd. Morgan Olmsted finished 3rd. Tanner, I'm going to struggle with this name. Tanner Clough. Is it Clough or Clough? Clough. Clough?
Oh,
Not sure.
There was a Clough on tour last year from Wallace, Nebraska. Is it the same? Oh, I wonder if they're related, obviously.
They might be related.
Clough. I think it's Clough.
Oh, yep. And anyways, looking here, Connor Hansen finished off the top 5. So there's a lot of movement here. Kyler Satran got 7th.
Satran.
I always say Satran. I don't know why. It's kind of like the Usatis argument. Anyways, he finished 7th. He started 24th. Behind him, Ethan New finished 8th, started 26th. Behind him, Chris Rangloff finished 9th, started 17th. Going down a few, finishing 11th and started 21st was Austin Caton. So there was a lot of movement. There were also another healthy helping of cautions, including a big one on the last lap, which looked like a 6-car engagement of entanglement. So it was a good night.
Wow.
What a busy week, guys. Holy moly.
Yeah, a lot of racing.
There's still more to come.
There's still more to come. There's still more to come, and we'll get right into what's upcoming racing-wise. Mr. Dakota Dirt, what's upcoming in the state of North Dakota?
I can't say anything until my spokesperson speaks for me.
Okay, so race fans and drivers, if you want the one-stop shop, again, one-stop shop for everything North Dakota racing news, results, recaps, weather forecasts, and much more, check out Dakota Dirt. And they are social. Yes, we are social. So check them out at Dakota Dirt on Facebook, as well as dakotadirt.org. Again, one-stop shop for everything North Dakota racing news and results. That is Dakota Dirt.
Thank you, John. To say that we are everything is a bit of a overstatement, but I appreciate it. We try, and we just try to stay up to date with everything. Anyways, the week has already started. John and I have already recapped the first 2 races of the week. McLean raced on Tuesday. Southwest raced on Wednesday, tomorrow night, which is the 8th. And Thursday, it looks like Williston. is, I can't remember. I might not have updated this exact one. Hold on, let me double check something so I don't forget anyone. Let's go over here. The 8th will also have Cheyenne racing, according to the overall calendar page. I do need to make one adjustment there. Friday looks like a very nice and busy day for racing to kick off the weekend. It will be Estevan, and then River Cities, and then Red River, and Dakota. The Tougher Than Dirt Tour will be traveling up north across the border, I believe, right, Mason?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. River Cities is doing River City things. There is a nice IMCA modified special over at the Red River Valley Raceway or Speedway, and
it's
Dakota
2,000 to win, I believe, Jessup.
It is 200 to
2,000
start.
to win.
And I was
2,000
just
to win,
looking.
200 to start as part of the Bison battle, I think is what it's
Yes, that's what it is. And that should be exciting because that hopefully will bring some more cars to the Don Gumpke Racers Memorial, which is, I can't talk right now, which is Saturday, the 10th. They will be racing the IMCA Modifieds, the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour, and then they will have the NX Legends. Actually, they're having everyone.
They're having everyone, but there's going to be increased payouts for those three classes. So it'll be mods for 2,222 to win, 222 to start, 122 if you're a non-qualifier. For the streets, it is 1,522 to win, 102 to start, as they bumped out the payout throughout the whole entire street one. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I know they're going to post payouts here as well, but I think second is like I think it's 822 or something like that for second, or 722, somewhere in that range for second place. So some really good payouts for the streets. And then for your legends, it is 722 to win and 75 to start, which usually they're like, I think, 30 to start. So that has been bumped up for your legends too. And then those are in memory of Jeff King, Casey Arneson, Josh Jones, Jack McDonald, and some more of those drivers. And then also the rest of the classes, Midwest Mods, Bombers, and Slingshots will be running just normal pay though for those classes.
Yep. And then after that, the Tougher Than Dirt Tour continues on to Thunder Mountain, which should be a really big show for them. I think it's going to be one of their best shows of the year. So if you're in that general area, I'd really suggest going out and supporting it. It looks like a very neat track. I want to get out there. I know it's got a old-timey feel to it. It's kind of just out in the wilderness. So it's pretty cool. So anyways, another track racing Saturday night is Devil's Lake. They'll be having another big night there too. And then to close the weekend off, it looks like the Nodak Speedway shuts down and closes out the Tougher Than Dirt Tour. So championship night is there, and that's going to be a good time, I think. Always a great way to round off a very hard and competitive tour that shines a little bit of light on a couple of the classes that really don't get a lot of light shined on them. So it's a really good week for those guys. And after the two races I've seen so far, it's definitely well worth your time to get out and support that tour.
Jessup, can I add something real quick?
Sure.
Also this week, if you keep a close eye on the Dakota Classic Modified Tour, registration will open up for the 34th annual Dakota Classic Modified Tour, which will start on June 8th and continue on to the July 8th through the 13th. Stop it, John. I corrected myself. I don't need you. Anyways, registration is open.
Just to make sure everybody knows, because Becca is stumbling over her own words right now. Registration for the mod tour is scheduled to open on June 8th. Thursday, June 8th is when it's scheduled to open on My Race Pass. So you can register through there to get registered for the mod tour. check out Facebook if you want further information. They start the tour for the 34th annual on Saturday, July 8th at Jamestown. Then it goes to Minot on the 9th of July, Estevan on Monday, the 10th of July. Then it goes to Williston on the 11th of July, Dickinson on the 12th, and championship night is on Thursday, and that is July 13th over at the Dakota Speedway in Mandan. And again, that is the 34th annual, but registration is going to open on June 8th. And Becca, you are welcome.
This
So
is
that
fun.
Had it under control.
We're
This is
having
where I would
fun.
take the mic and do a drop.
Well, that takes care of the racing in North Dakota for the weekend and coming soon for the big touring event of the summer. As far as racing outside the state of North Dakota, there's a lot. Thursday, KRA Speedway is hosting the first of 4 nights for the Structural Buildings WISSOTA Late Model Challenge Series. Norman County Raceway is also having late models added to their weekly program, and also they have a meet and greet as well. Moving on to Friday, it's actually a little bit less full than I initially thought because there's actually a lot more racing in North Dakota, but Brown County Speedway in South Dakota is hosting the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour. And then over in Minnesota, Fiesta City Speedway is hosting the second night of 4 for the Structural Buildings WISSOTA Late Model Challenge Series. Saturday is the busy day. So we have Greenbush Race Park running. Madison Speedway is hosting this challenge series there for the night 3. Over in South Dakota, Miller Central Speedway is running. And then the other tracks running in Minnesota include North Central Speedway in Brainerd, Ogilvie Raceway, and also Viking Speedway is back after a week off. And then Sunday to round out the weekend, we have the Bemidji Speedway, Buffalo River Speedway in action, as well as the Granite City Motor Park in Minnesota. And Casino Speedway caps off the 4-night swing for the challenge series. And so you have plenty of racing opportunities for a race fan wherever you want to venture out, and you can see different things, different specials, and different classes. And so you can kind of pick from your choosing this weekend in June, kind of one of the first major weekends of big specials going on.
Mason, should we start announcing the races out west for our Western listeners?
Since we do have Western listeners, go ahead. They've had some terrible luck with weather the last couple weeks.
I've got a couple pulled up here. Looking at Friday, just starting up Friday. Big Sky Speedway has one of the best special event names, at least on my race pass. It is. They have the late models are in town special.
Are you kidding? That's awesome.
I am dead serious. And I will say, Becca and I have talked about it. Big Sky does a great job of promoting their drivers and engaging their fans and keeping tabs on the ones who are out of town. So that's pretty cool. So if there's anyone over there, big thumbs up. Like what you're doing over there. It's definitely amusing. But yeah, good job, guys. Moving on. I saw that Casper it has already canceled. I don't know, not sure why, but they're canceled already. What else do we got here? Black Hills has the ASCS Northern Plains Region Sprint 360 Sprints in town, along with the WISSOTA Mod 4s, IMCA Modifieds, WISSOTA Midwest Mods, and the WISSOTA Street Stops. Then that's pretty much, I think. Yeah, just taking a quick glance. That's pretty much all they got out west.
Say, I don't know if Great Falls might be racing, and then also Sheridan usually races on Sundays too.
Yep. That's just the Friday. There's so many tracks to look through, and off the spur of the moment type of deal what this is.
But yeah, it's kind of nice that we have some listeners out west so we can kind of touch on their stuff a little bit too, and hopefully they are encouraged to make their way out east. I would like to make a trip out west at some point. I need to figure out a weekend. Like, it's probably going to be more like the early August time frame where I just go spend a weekend out there. I know they have like a Midwest Mod tour that takes place. I think they have like a couple of IMCA modified big races they have out there, and so we'll see about making a trip out there at some point. But yeah, I mean, they're spread out a good distance apart, but I think it'd just be a fun driving trip out there for a week or so. So that's what racing is taking place this weekend, and we will finish up as we display the white flag, our hot sauce closing thoughts featuring wins of the week. Thank you so much to Isaac Sandro for sponsoring us on the podcast. Be sure if you're in the pits and you are at the track and you see Isaac around, stop by and say hi. He's one of the friendly guys to talk to. Their entire pit crew is very friendly. You can pick up some snacks from Mama Sandro or Grandma Barb in his trailer, or try some of his special hot sauce that he may carry around in his trailer. And so thank you, Isaac, for supporting us on the podcast. And so who has wins of the week or winners of for this week? Who wants to kick it off? Jessup?
Oh,
Becca,
no, we're leaving Jessup to last. Becca, you go first.
Okay, Becca, go ahead.
So I'll preface my wins of the week because so all my wins of the week are from Dacotah Speedway because I think I forgot to make picks on Friday. I think I did Red River Valley before. No, I picked Mandan, but
No, I'm just shaking my head that you.
I'm shaking my head at you too, like
why?
Becca, do better.
I can't believe you forgot to make fantasy picks.
I was
I was
literally
saying,
putting
you
out
have to do better.
fires before the races because everyone's calling and texting me about all these different things, right? And I'm just like, oh my gosh, and I had no time to make fantasy picks. So I only did Fargo and Mandan on Friday. And I almost forgot Jamestown. Unfortunately for Jaden Ettinger, but fortunate for me, when I heard the rollover happen, I was like, oh my God, I forgot to make fantasy picks in Jamestown. So I made fantasy picks in Jamestown during the red flag. Anyways, I have no sense of what happened when in regards to other racing around the state. So my wins of the week are, my first one of the win goes to the duo of mother-daughter duo of Jamie and Kelsey Vetter. Jamie was the person that was on the Orbit's computer on Saturday night when the transponders went down. She worked furiously behind the scenes to figure out a way to get them back up and running. And she called Stacy in Jamestown, even though Jamestown was running, and Stacy was kind enough to kind of like give her some ideas as to what might have gone wrong. And Jamie was able to figure out what happened, fix it, and get the timing and scoring up and running for the last 50 laps of the Ironman 100, which is a 100 lap race. Kelsey, her daughter, her and I were hand scoring, and Kelsey has hand scored before, but to a lesser degree. This was a big race with a lot of cars, and they were fast paced, and it was a lot. There was laps, there was cars going laps down, there was wrecks, all sorts of things. It was crazy. She knocked it out of the park. So kudos. My first one of the win goes to Jamie and Kelsey Vetter, who helped out with timing and scoring. Whether it was hand scoring or electronic scoring, those girls knocked it out of the park. My second one of the week goes to Craig Heupel, who came down with Larry McFall. Larry McFall helped fill in announcing duties on Saturday night. Thank you to Larry for coming down and doing that. But Craig came down just to watch as a fan. And I thought he had experience in hand scoring. He had not. I literally came down. I was like, hey, need your help. Can you help us? Yeah, sure. Stopped whatever he was doing, just hanging out in the grandstands, came up, and he was able to just like call out cars as they crossed the finish line, which helped with Kelsey and I in hand scoring. So thank you to Craig for doing that. And thank you for Larry McFall for filling in for John while he went to Jamestown on Saturday. Oh gosh, what should be my third one? My third one of the week is a toss up because Aaron Trimble had engine problems on Friday, came back and finished second. He started in the last row, drove all the way to the front, led a whole lot of laps. Jeremy Keller has finished runner up in the last two Ironmans, finally broke into victory lane for the first time in this event. So toss up between Aaron Trimble and Jeremy Keller, aka I just got 4 in. So
sneaky, but all good
Yes.
solid wins. All good solid wins. I agree with all of those. John, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I'll go next. So, I actually followed up on quite a bit of racing this past week. So here is my wins of the week. I've got 3 of them. First one, Drew Christensen. I want to throw it out to him. He picked up the win on Sunday night over at the Nodak Speedway in Minot. So Drew actually, a couple weeks ago, we were up there in Minot, and he was actually running one of Medler's cars, the one that Hellebest ran on opening night. Drew was actually in that car that night because I believe his car still had problems that were not fixed yet from opening night. So he was in that car instead. So he got his car back together. By the way, one of the best looking paint schemes I think out there this year as well in the 29 machine, and Drew ended up picking up the feature win. So congratulations to Drew and his crew. So that was pretty awesome to see. My next win of the week, I'm going to throw it out to one of the 913 graphics crew members, which is Dustin Erickson. Dustin has had a very, very nice start to his 2023 season in his street stock. Another really good looking car this year for him, and he has finished in the top 3 both weeks over in Jamestown. And as you guys know, Jamestown has some really strong street stock competition, always has over the years. And Dustin kind of looks back. He might be on his form from when he won the championship here just a few years back. So congratulations to Dustin on a good start to his season directly for this year. So my other win of the week, and I am stealing this one right from Mason, directly on this potentially. So I'm going to give it over to Johnny Carter for winning in a brand new car on Sunday over in Glendon as part of the Street Stock Tour. That was his 4th night in that car, and he ended up in Victory Lane. Brand new chassis for him here this year. It is still a South chassis, but it is a brand new car for him directly this year in a brand new paint scheme, which I think is throwing a lot of people for a loop. Looks really cool, but again, it is definitely different for him as there's no green on the car. Johnny, I'm very disappointed in you. There's no green. So, but no, I'm joking. Green's my favorite color, so that's probably why. But no, his car looks really sweet this year. Really nice looking street stock, and picked up the win in Glendon. And we'll see if he kind of goes on a tear at some of his local tracks here this weekend with Cheyenne on Thursday, Brown County on Friday, and Jamestown on Saturday. He has won tour events at all 3 of those tracks, so we'll see if he ends up going on a tear here this week too. But that's my 3rd win of the week.
Another solid few wins there. Johnny is a good one. He wasn't on my initial list though, but solid pick. Since we're saving Jess up for last, I will go with my 3 wins of the week.
He likes to ramble tonight, so he can go last.
Well, my first win goes to, I should have given this guy a win last week, but Evan Hendrickson gets my first win of the week. He's in a new car this season in the NX Legends. He was telling me when over in Mandan to start the season that the car he was driving last year was like old, like super old, like 15 plus years old. And so new car to him this year, and he got a couple wins under his belt, and he's looking like one of the new up and rising, almost dominant legend drivers, especially out east. You know, that we're seeing like a good changing of the guard out east now that guys like Ty Wilkie have gone out and are racing the Race Series 305 more. And so Evan Hendrickson's one of those top guys now that I look to watch at each of the races out east. So that's my first win of the week. Second win of the week goes to Tyler McFarland. Do any of you know who Tyler McFarland is? I assume John Breckel does. So Tyler McFarland is a Wissota Midwest Modified driver out of South Dakota, and he got his first career feature win on Sunday at the Casino Speedway. So big congrats out to Tyler McFarland, because that is not an easy place to win, let alone in the Wissota Midwest Modified. So big congrats out to Tyler McFarland. And my third win of the week goes to Tucker Peterson. And the reason why is he went down on Friday because River Cities was off with the World of Outlaws in town. Went down to Brown County Speedway. Wasn't sure if they were going to make it because there was some storms on the way. But he scored the feature win down there. From what I was reading from his Facebook post, it was his 27th career win, which of course matches his car number. But it was the first feature win where he went home with the trophy. And I would like to submit a request to the head CEO of the Controversially Non-Controversial podcast as a topic.
Yes.
Should feature winners take a trophy or something home with them after a weekly racing show?
It's a trick question. That's yes and no. They should be giving it to the kids.
Oh, okay. Well, I think this would be a really good topic for the CNC.
I'm just kidding.
This is true. Unless there's a kid's trophy, then they could take that trophy home.
I wasn't aware there were tracks that did not give trophies.
Oh, yes.
There's
There are
several.
some within our own
There's a
state,
lot.
Becca.
There's a lot of them that don't do it.
Really?
Yeah, but I think this would be a good topic to discuss in more detail on the CNC. But congratulations to Dr. Peterson on getting a feature win and traveling a good distance.
Yes,
to race.
he's traveling this year, which is really cool to see. as well. I mean, we've seen Tucker at several tracks, but he's definitely putting on the miles this year, and going around to different tracks, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are my 3 wins of the week. Go ahead, Jessup.
It's a tough week. Tough week. A lot of picks already been taken. So I'm going to go a little different route. I'm going to talk about maybe some people who may or may not have won, but they've been performing quite well. So first, let's go with legend driver. I'm going to go give it out to Dustin Hagen. I thought I was very impressed with his performance at McLean. So that was pretty cool. I was definitely on my feet at the end, yelling for him to get the last couple feet, but he raced very clean with Glenn Mitchell, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. And I think by racing him clean on a track with some character, I think there's a lot of respect given between both of them, or is earned and I guess awarded or built up would be a good way to describe it. So that's my first one. I thought that was really cool. He's been hanging around. He's been starting to hang around in the top 10 or around the top 10 at Dacotah Speedway. And for those who haven't been able to get to the Dacotah Speedway, it is a driver's track. It is a very challenging track to we could say conquer, or at least get a handle on. But once you do, it definitely helps improve your driving, or so I've been told by drivers. Number 2. I got a good one. I'm going to go with Chris Welk Sr. And the reason why behind that is he races weekly with us, and he is very committed to our track, and I appreciate having his car with us whenever he gets out. He raced the 100 lap feature, and he started 17th and finished 11th. And I think that's very telling of the character that he has and the persistence to stay with it. When I say stay with it, I stay engaged with the race, and the persistence is paying off. So I thought that was a really good finish for him. I think that was and at one of our premier racing events. So that's my number 2. And then I guess number 3, it's a toss up here. I'll go with Brandon Bombardo.
Mm-hmm.
2 good races. It was a toss up between him and I would say Preston Martin again, who's been pretty hot of late. So both of them are number 3 and 3A and A3. So those are my wins of the week.
There we go. Yeah, all sorts of great wins encompassing not just drivers, but volunteers and everything in between. And so I think that's a good way to close out episode number 15 of season 2 for the Track Packers podcast. Be sure, as always, if you're watching on Facebook and or YouTube, to like, share, and comment your thoughts. Share it with friends, because we all love to see who's all watching. If you're a podcast listener, specifically on Apple, give us a 5-star review and listen to us on Google and Spotify as well. Thank you to Tyler Hall and Hitch Harness, and also Isaac Hot Sauce Sandro for the sponsorship. And we will see you out there this weekend packing the track.